Today is second weeks. Follow the syllabus, national differences in politics and economics and the legal systems. As you know, we have a lot of systems in the world, communism, democracy, and socialism. So why we studying this part in the international management or business? Because it's now focused globalization. So every countries have something problem to each country. So there are some problems to national states status. For example, United States and China have lots of export and import. So there are some different national systems. It's very big effect for trade. That's why we have to review these parts, national differences. What kind of national differences in the world. So today we will study what is the reason for understanding how the political systems of countries differ. So we have some example for you. Socialism, communism, democracy, something like that. And second learning objectives, we have to understand how the economic systems of countries differ. So each country has different country system, and also follow the economic systems also different. And third objectives is have to understand how the legal systems of countries differ. So first, the political system is different, and automatically economic system is different, and then also the legal systems is also different. And final objectives is to explain the implication for management practice of national differences in political economy. So management practice is a real story for each trade in the world. This is for learning objectives of this class. Let me show you the introduction. The international business is much more complicated. That is very complex, very complicated. So it's much more complicated than this domestic business. Domestic business means 국내. Domestic is simply buy and sell, but in the country, between the countries in the world, is more complicated, more difficult, and many factors between the countries because it's, as I said, it's a different system. So because countries differ in many ways, as you know. So countries have different political, economy, and legal systems. So today,
그렇게 좋은 건 아니에요.
네.
이것도 조금 약합니다.
센 거 없어요?
예. 오늘 찾아보고 알려드릴게요.
Very significant in the level of economic development and future economic growth trajectories. So cultural practice can very dramatically change it and upgrade. So the education skills, level of population. So we have to know there are two things. One thing is population. out of the education. Population and economic development. As you know, every country announced their economic growth, develop or growth rate. For example, 1.3 and 6.0 or 5.0. Every country announced the economic growth forecasting. So, for example, the China before pandemic, the China very high growth rate, at least over 7% every year. But now it's very big change, dramatically changed, like I said. It's only below 3% and 2%. So this is another story. But anyway, now in the China, 13.3 billion population, and last July or around July, there's 13.4 billion India and China. So, who is the biggest population country? India. Last around June. So anyway, around 13.4 or 5 billion. So the biggest country, the population. Why I say this population and the growth rate relate that? This is for example, in the China, 7.7% growth rate last year, and minus population increase rate. Population increase rate. This population is increased at how many percentage? For example, 4%. So actually, 7 point minus 4 point is 3 point. So actual growth, economic growth rate is 3%. This is for regulation and equation. So in the biggest country also think about the population. Also economic rate is a reverse relationship. So even if the 7 point is very high economic growth rate, but also China has lots of the increased population. That's why minus 4 point. Real actual economic development only 3%. Now is China is very big policy for push down the population. So one children even more as you know that. So this situation is very dramatically related to globalization, also international business. So now new trend, the United States a little bit friendly relationship with India, and a little bit very difficult situation with China. This is for another political issues nowadays. But this is nowadays trend. But anyway, in the national differences, we have to know these situations. So economic growth rate, and the other one is population increase rate is inverse factors. So also there are, I said it's education. many huge, no many, many people's country have a tremendous population country have big problem related education because the economic growth rate is related to education level. Education level is technical and skills and some technical skills and knowledge or something like that. So education level is very big related in the population. It's also automatically related to economic growth. As we said, if we have some big technology, this is dramatically impacted the growth. As I said, this industry is very big increasing. That's why the education is very big issues for population and economic growth. So most of the index or some data shows to the growth. Think about that is economic growth rate, population increase rate, and education. The three things is automatically related the development of state. So this is for second week's international business. So lastly, we have very briefly overview the international business. So that's why today is second week. First approach the each state have very differences in the political part and economic part and the legal system part. That's why we review the each state's systems, and then we may need the other factors. Okay. So all these political and economic and legal systems can have major implication for the practice and international business. As I said, this is very practice of international business means is actual impact, real impact. So we have very profound impact of the benefits, cost, and the risk associated with doing business in different countries. So we have some trade, each countries, we think about for example, the benefits and the risk or cost, something like that. So these things is very big factors between countries. Also, the operations in different countries should be managed. Should be managed means is we have to control. So the strategy international firms should pursue in the different countries. It means later we will study that. For example, the smartphone is developed in the United States, but it's different market strategies each country. That's the reason there. So later, the next chapter, next day, we have to review these things. So anyway, you have to know this. We have to pursue. Or should pursue. Pursue means it's a marketing strategy. It's in different countries because it's, as you know, there China, India, Korea, or something, South America is different cultures. That's why we have two different market strategy. Later we will study that. First thing, as I said, is the political system is different. Very thirsty. This is chapter 2. Okay. Yeah. So as I said, this international business more complicated than domestic economies. So each country is very economic development, very is different. And culture, education, and skill levels. Skill level means is education level or technology level. It's very deep. It's different. Or doing something different means is some 변동한다. 바뀐다. Also, the political economy and legal system are known as the political economy. So also, as I said, it's just political, economic, and the legal system is also different. Also, societal culture affects the political economy, and the political economy shapes societal cultures. Later, I introduced societal and socialism, and totalism, and the economism, democratic is different. So I will introduce that. So first is political system. We'll review the political system. In the United States, how many population in the United States? 3 point. 3.3 billion. This is for maybe tenths in the world, tenths or levels, something. Okay. The political system. In the world, there are many political systems. What's the meaning of political systems? The political system is a kind of the system of government in a nation. So political systems can be assessed in terms of degree to which they emphasize collectivism as opposed to individualism. more emphasize the collectivism. Collectivism, but more emphasized rather than individualism, because it is collectivism is majority, but the individualism is each person. So political systems more emphasize, more stress collectivism as opposite to the individual. Also, democratics or totalitarian. Democratic or totalitarian. Also, political systems are democratic or totalitarian. So, political system is different. Two majority factors versus emphasis collectivism rather than individualism. Also, the political systems also emphasize the democratic or totalitarian. This is for representative of political systems. And we reviewed each one by one. First, collectivism and individualism. I want to say right there. Okay. What is the difference collectivism versus individualism? So collectivism is a system where it stresses the primacy of collective goals over individual goals. It means it's most group wants to part-time. Each individual wants that or to need those goals or some pursue the goals. But the collectivism is focused their collective goals. Rather than individual goals. So most people want that, most people need goals, we are following. This is collectivism. So when collectivism is emphasized, the needs of society as a whole are generally viewed as being more important than individual freedom. So as you last heard that individual freedom is a little bit the issues there. Individual freedom is a little bit how can I say this for not important, because we are focused on collective goals better. So sometimes we are sacrifice the individual freedom. There are something very hot issues in the world because it's related some union. So labor and capital. Who wants to protect the investment? Or the rich guys owns the capital. But labor is only people. Most people owns that. Capital owns is capitalism. That's why every time they are trade. They argue and some fighting. Yesterday is Independence Day. Yesterday, last Tuesday, the hotel workers union have some strike last Independence Day. So they want to increase the condition and benefit and the wages, the labor. But the capitalism or the owner, the investment guys, the company does not accept their asking. Every time they are striking or argue or fighting, strike, this is a trade-off. So if increase the labor charge, and then capitalism or investment benefit is a little bit decreasing. But always labor charge increase is a big problem because it's the company or firm and individual. It's complete. It's labor system and capital system is complete that is automatically related with the individual and the firms. Individual is very small power. That's why they make union. The union is fighting for firms instead of each individual. That's it. So union is big power in the world. Later we will study this part. When we start trade, each country, this first thing is think about the factors of union status. It means, for example, in the Korea, union status very strong. And also, in the United States is also very, very strong. Which country is the most strongest union in the world? I think French. French is very big and huge, powerful union. So nowadays they are big striking the days. So the French politics is a big problem. So we are frequently saw in the news about the French union striking. So union is union fighting for firms instead of individual freedom. At this time, we have to have some individual freedom sacrificed. This is automatically we have to accept. So if I have different idea and I cannot, it's very difficult to accept the final answer between union and firms, even if they are some different my idea, I have to accept or should be followed because this is for collectivism. So we move to each goals working together. This thing. So these things, the trace means the origin. So this is for collectivism traced to the Greek philosopher Plato. The Greek Plato. The Plato is traced these collectivism systems. Also today, the collectivism supports from the socialist. It's a really very sensitive area, the socialists. Support the collectivism. So later we will study that or review this part. the socialist is a kind of Nordic country. Is most of them plan Norway. Their countries follow the socialist. Also, China is very moved to socialism from the communist. Also, Russia is also same. But my personal idea is these things is more scholastic approach. But the actual or real status is not important these days. Socialist and individualism or collectivism, democratic, it doesn't matter. But it's realistic. Who owns the actual benefit? This is for more important rather than political systems. Even if it's a socialist or communist or democrat, it doesn't matter. They are only realistic benefit. Who owns the realistic benefits? Each country has some conversation and trading in the world, but only focused real income, real benefit. Who owns the real income? Now, as you know, this Ukraine is big war in there. In about 1.5 years. So the Ukraine is very sad news, but who controlling the background? It's the NATO, United States. Why they fighting instead of the tribe? This is for political system, main reason. Okay, move on. Socialism. Socialism. Modern socialists trace the roots of the Karl Marx. The social mark traced from the Karl Marx. The Karl Marx is from Karl Marx. And the collectivism is the traced for Plato, the Greek philosopher. So they advocate state's ownership of the basic means of production, distribution, and exchange. Okay. Production. And distribution. And exchange. So the socialist country or states ownership insist their basic means of the production, distribution, and exchange. It means is social states the means by production, by the distribution and exchange. Okay. Now two things: growth and distribution. Also, they are related trade-off. Trade-off means trade-off is fighting. and some issues there. It's trade. So growth distribution. Growth is distribution is politician. Republic Party. Republic Party. 공화당, 민주당. 디모크라틱 파티, sorry. 디모크라틱. 공화당, 민주당. So, Republic Party focused growth, but the Democratic Party focused distribution. Most countries developed this time, developed. They want this time. But this is very difficult. We cannot show this time in the world, in the history. Only the country developed time, this time. So, in past time, Democratic Party in charge this area. Democratic Party. And this area charge for Republican Party. They are circulating. This is for very helpful development country. This style is very representative example is South Korea. Because of development status and very quickly the states develop this time. So this situation country has something problem for or some foundation or some it's a little bit different area, but they need some more complicated social or some people levels and social very big how can I say is gap for rich and poor. But this status is very founded developed because this is related to the political system. This style is quick, but very speedily developed the country economic status for China or South Korea. It's very big style. But the problem is the population, ideal levels. But these things is political system. In the political system, there are two parties. It's a switch conquer the national style, and then a little bit distribution focus that each labor, each capital. So the rich is getting the rich, the poor is the poor. But this time, this Democratic Party focused the distribution. But the Republican Party also pushed to the growth only. So the Republican Party very familiar for farms because they want to grow. But the Democratic Party very familiar for union. Rich people like the Republic because the rich people are very conservative. But most middle levels laborers like the Democratic Party because they are very familiar. This is for political system basically outstanding this status. So there are lots of trade-off and then trade-off for fighting for election. Now it's United States suffered this distribution focused Democratic Party, but this is for only the in the research area. Nowadays, also Democratic Party and Republican Party focus who is the real benefit for the population. So nowadays, more very meaningful between two parties. No more meaning there. But anyway, basically, there are two parties focus growth and distribution. This is the main different two parties. Okay, come back with that. So the states then manage the enterprise for the benefit of society as a whole. Also in the early 20th centuries, socialism split into communist and social democracies. Because of the now China is a kind of political system, or the Norway, or Finland, a kind of political system. We cannot distinguish that because of they are split into two things. They are split. Splitting into means is divided two things. One thing is the communist. And social democrats. The split into the two systems. One thing is communists, the other one is social democratic. In the early 20th centuries, they are split, divided, and developed each different system. Communist is socialism could only be achieved through revolution and totalitarian dictatorship. This is for totalitarian. Totalitarian is Korean says is 전체주의. And totalitarian dictatorship. Something like this Nazi style. And lots of the South Africa have some dictatorship there. Also North Korea style. The communists focus the totalitarian and dictatorships. On the other hand, the social democrats folks works on to achieve the same goals by democratic means. Same goals. It's democratic goals. This one is the same goal. From democratic. So social democrats focus the same goals by the democratic means. Democratic means is collectivism, it's a majority. What is the goal of majority? Then individual goals, as I said. So is the early 20th centuries, the socialism from the Karl Marx, and then they are developed and split into communist and social democrats. communist focus totalitarian or dictatorship. But the social democrats focus the same goals by democratic means. Democratic means is majority. What kind of means? Means is some method. Or ways. What kind of ways? What kind of method? The democratic system. Democratic means majority. So same goals by the democratic means. This is for social democratic. This is in the early 20th centuries. They are splitting from socialism. Okay. And we are 10-minute break. Okay. 10-minute break. Continues the socialism. This socialism is traced Karl Marx, and then they are split into the two systems. One is communist, the other one is social democrats. And in the early 20th centuries, is split is divided, developed that way. So communists supported totalitarian. Totalitarian means is we are thinking about total and whole people. And dictatorship is something like the Hitler style and North Korea style. This is dictatorship. So the communist is communists developed from totalitarian or dictatorship is related. Also, on the other hand, the social democrats they have the same goals by democratic means. As you know, the means, the way or method. So the social democratic focus the majority. The majority wants to what kind of the goals, and then they follow. Automatically follow the majority. They push or have to have some individual freedom sacrifice. So majority wants that the A project, but the individual wants to the B system. But in this case, who is majority? So even if they decide the A project, but the other individual B project parties sacrifice the final decision. That's the democratic method. So also continue the many states-owned enterprises fail to success. Many nations implemented the privatizations. Privatizations, you don't know privatizations. I can write the Chinese there. You know the meaning? This is privatization. The government cannot touch that. Only people. This is you can read it. How can you read it? This?
民营化。
民营化, yeah. But I can read that. Only I translate the meaning to you. Anyway, there's a privatization programs. So many states own the enterprise, but the failed because the communist and social democratic is the failed to success. So they implemented privatizations problems. So the communist reaches its high point in the late 1970s. The communist is very big change is the status 1970s, late 1970s, when the majority of the world's population lived in the communist states. At this time, most people in the world live in the communist. It means it's China, Russia, Soviet Union, and some South America. But now it's Chinese changed it, as you know. Also, the Soviet Union is changed Russia. Later I will review that. So the countries under the Communist Party rules at that time includes the former Soviet Union, as you know, and it's Eastern European, for example, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, also China, the Southeast Asia, for example, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. Also, the other example is various African nations, for example, Angola and Mozambique. These countries, late 1970s, most population of the world lives in their communist. Soviet Union, China, and some Laos, Vietnam, something like the Southeast area, yes, East area, Cambodia, Angola, Mozambique, also many people. And the Latin American nations of the, Cuba and Nicaragua. So the communism was in threat worldwide. In threat. In threat means is neglect or go back. So they changed the political systems. Now this class title is political systems. The political systems means each state have a kind of conquered system, political system. So China is still normally a communist state, but the substantially limits to the individual political freedom. As you know, the political freedom we have. So also in the economic sphere, the country has moved sharply away from the strict adherence to the communist ideology. Now we don't focus anymore to ideology. Ideology. No more ideology. Only the focused. No. Oh. So real music.
The same thing.
What's the real benefit? So no more ideology or ideology. Who owns that the benefits? It's 등소평 or something. first very famous people. So this is for they change the economic sphere area. Economic area is changed a lot. Also, the move is very sharply move away. Move away means is move that system. Also, the old style communism, which with the state's control over economic activities. So hang on, only a handful of small fringe states, most notably North Korea. As you know, I'm Korean, so the very sad situation is North Korea is only remained real communist or some totalitarian. I think it's dictatorship is very difficult. North Korea,
Dictator.
dictator.
Oh.
Dictatorship. dictatorship means is something like Hitler, only one dictatorship. Or, no, I think so. I agree this, but the real name of the North Korea is Republican of Democratic Joseon Dynasty or something like that. So they are real democratic democratic of something democratic of the Joseon Dynasty or something. So I think all nations contribute their dictatorship is very similar to North Korea style. Anyway, now I'm not Korean. It's Korean American is. Okay, that's joke. Anyway, they are old style communism. They insist the old style communism. Also, the other side is social democratic. Is the social democratic also seems to be have passed a high water mark. I introduced some word high water, a high water mark. Trust me, you know that the high water means is the peak, highest point. The high water mark, this is for this one area. The high water mark, okay? Anyway, this is another word. So the social democracy all seems to be have passed the high water marks, although the ideology may prove to be more enduring than communism. So there are many arguing or this debate and articles about the social democracy and communism. But the social democracy have perhaps the greatest influence in the number of domestic democratic Western nations, including Australia, France, Germany, Great Britain, Norway, Spain, and Sweden. So these countries' social democratic parties have often had political power. So each country had to move to system, the political system, who majority have political power. So the point is that why they reach the high water marks. The main issues they are political power. Who owns the political power, and then the country moves to political systems from communist to social democratic, or from democratic to social democratic. Okay, so there are some hard misconception about Nordic countries. There are very specific area is Nordic countries. For example, Norway, Finland, and also Norway, Finland, and Sweden. This is very developed social democratic countries. Nordic countries is very developed social development, social democracy. Also, in the Great Britain, by the end of the 1970s, the state-owned companies has monopoly in the telecommunication, electronics, gas, coal, railroad, and shipbuilding industries, as well as substantial interest in the oil, airline, auto, and steel industry. So the end of 1970s, the Great Britain is escaped the EU, United Union. So they are focused, and the state owns the companies. That is the monopoly. The monopoly. Monopoly is something like Apple and some Microsoft is monopoly style. So in the in England or Great Britain is owned companies, for example, telecommunication, electronic, gas, oil, shipbuilding industry, even if the oil company, airline, auto, steel industry, most of the foundation of the industry, they own them. Most industries privatized now. Private. Privatized. Owns this popular, not government. So evidence shows that time and time again the state-run industries are inactive because the government operates the most important industries, but they are not ineffective. So they change the privatize means is give to the man. Also, the individual. This political system is impacting the individuals. The totalitarian or individual. Individualism suggests individuals should have freedom. They are focused on freedom, individual personal freedom, over their economy and political pursuit. So even this economic status or political pursuit focused individual freedom. So individual can be traced by the Aristotle. Trace the origin. As I said, there's collectivism traced Greek philosopher Plato. Also, the socialism traced the roots to Karl Marx. On the other hand, individualism can be traced to Aristotle. Aristotle is argued that the individual diversity and the private ownerships were desired. The privately owned property received more care. So Aristotle argued that the diversity or diversity and the private ownership. So they are own the private ownership property and the diversity. This Aristotle argued or insist two things. One thing, each people have a very for their diversity. Also, they are focused on private ownership property. I want to own my own. This is from developed individualism. Individualism stressed the individual freedom and self-expression. That's another thing. Also, the letting people pursue their own self-interest to achieve the best overall good for society. Democracy system and the free market. Also, they choose the free market. Because they can own their own property for their own benefit in the free market through the profit, something like that. So this is for individualism. Choice for us, and they focus on diversity and private ownership. This is individualism. And next, democracy and totalitarianism. Versus totalitarianism. Let me introduce the democracy versus totalitarianism. This is kind of political systems. Okay, so we review that the political system first. Collectivism versus individualism. Collectivism, socialism, and individualism. And at this time, we think about the democracy and totalitarianism. Democracy means political system in which government is by the people, exercised either directly or through elected representatives. We are elected by poll. We electives, the congressman and representative and city council, something like that. Most common forms is representative democracy. Elective representatives vote on behalf of constituent election, vote, election, contributant, the same late word, election, vote, and the constituent. So democracy would work without safeguard. It means an individual's lives of freedom of expression, freedom of opinion, freedom of organization. Also very free media. Free media means is we are represent or argue free. Also democracy, regular election in which all eligible citizens are allowed to vote. Because we can make representatives. We are elected representatives, and representatives work to nation works. Universal adult suffrage. Suffrage means the right to vote. Suffrage, it means I enjoy having responsibility, or I have to duty or vote. Also, I have a right to vote. Suffrage. This is very important factors in the democracy. Also, democracy limited terms for elected representatives. Even if I don't like him, but he chose representatives, and then we have to follow that. Even if I don't like him, or I don't follow his style, or representative style. Also, the democracy is a fair court system. It is independent from the political system. Court system, very fair, very fair court system. We are arguing that this judge, from the judge. This is democratic system. Also non-political state bureaucracy. But this is a little bit problem. Bureaucracy. Because most people follow the democracy or the republican is also problem for me. Monopolical policy force and armed service. Some countries mandatory armed service, military service. But in the United States it's not followed. But in Korea it's mandatory. China is mandatory army service? No. Also relatively free access to state information. Very easy to approach or access to state information. Now we think about this one word, related for democracy. It's a little bit not popular word. Pseudo. P-S-E, pseudo. Very unique word. Pseudo democracy. It means it's some fake democracy. Fake. Lie. You know, understand? Fake. It's not a sound. Pseudo. Okay? Pseudo democracy means a fake democracy. Is any nation lie between pure democracy and completion totalitarianism? Because now we hear what is different, the democracy and totalitarianism. Totalitarianism follow the vote, representatives, lots of familiar or very similar system for democracy. But the totalitarianism is pseudo democracy. Means it's fake democracy. But the outstanding is shows to the democracy. But the inside is something like the fake. That is means is the what is that? The North Korea style. This is for pseudo democracy, dictatorship, something like that. This is pseudo democracy. So some guys elected authoritarian elects captured much of the machinery of states and used these attempt to deny basic political and civil liberties. So even if we choose some representatives, but the representatives cannot work that. For example, this pseudo-democracy, for example, is Russia under Vladimir Putin. Most in the textbook mentioned whose country is pseudo-democracy is Putin, Russia style. Dmitry Putin is fake democracy style. But most people elect to vote to representatives. But Putin is control everything, something like dictatorship style. Besides, that's why the old textbook mentioned is a pseudo-democracy. Okay. And totalitarianism. What's the meaning of totalitarianism? Totalitarianism from forms of government in which one person or political party exercise absolute control over all sphere of human life, and opposing political parties are prohibited. So it means even if there are one person or more political parties, something like this Democratic Party or more Republican Party style. But in the most totalitarianism regime means system, regime. The system is a unique word. It's a regime. Regime is systems. So the most totalitarian is widespread political repression. Very widespread political repression. Also, there are no free and fair election. They concerned election, very secret. Also, media are censored. Media is very restricted, censored means. And the basic civil liberties are denied, not accepted. Also, challenges to the regime are prohibited. They are pursue some regime or system, they are prohibited. It's a block. So there are four kinds of totalitarianism. Okay, so today I will introduce the totalitarianism. Four things, four kinds. One thing is communist totalitarianism. Communist totalitarianism. And second example, theocratic totalitarianism. And tribal totalitarianism. This is example. And fourth, right-wing totalitarianism. So totalitarianism have four kinds of format: communist totalitarianism, theocratic totalitarianism, tribal totalitarianism, right-wing totalitarianism. Let me introduce briefly the mention and the depiction. This communist totalitarianism is advocated achieving socialism through totalitarian dictatorship. It's very similar communist. And theocratic totalitarianism means political power is monopolized by a party, group, or individual that governs according to the religious principles. Middle East, this time. For example, Middle East. Middle East country follow the theocratic totalitarianism. It is Islamic style. Also, the tribal totalitarianism is a political party that represents the interest of particular tribe, monopolized power. It's Africa. For example, Africa. This is North Korea. So if you know the example, you can understand the meaning. Tribal totalitarianism is Africa. It's tribal, something same race, totalitarian. Theocratic totalitarianism is Middle East, follow the Islam, religious. And the right-wing totalitarianism is individual economic freedom is allowed. Individual freedom is allowed. We can do it everything. But the individual political freedom is restricted. The belief it could be linked to communism, backed by the military. This is for right-wing is German and Italy. When? 1932. Hitler, Mussolini style. So Germany and Italy in 1930s and 1940s for World War II. You know this? This is for right-wing totalitarianism style. Okay. So political system is I introduced the collectivism, individualism, socialism, and democracy, and totalitarianism. So totalitarianism is four kinds in the world. This is only last history. The German and Italy in 1930s and 1940s, they occurred World War II. So tribal totalitarianism is for example from Africa. Theocratic totalitarianism is Middle East. Middle East is Iraq or something like that, and Saudi Arabia. And communist totalitarianism is, for example, this is all totalitarianism example. Okay. Today, this is for all class, and I want to keep going the economic systems, but only 2 hours. Okay. Anyway, tomorrow, next week, we will study the economic system. Each country has a different political system. Next chapter is economic system. This economic system is very different and very in the world. Why we are studying these things? This thing is related to the social study, but in the international business is also related this style because there are so many tremendous trading between the country. So we know each country political systems because it's all trading is related to policy, law, and national political system is related to trade. That's why briefly we review these systems. So next week we will review the economic systems. What's that? What is different economic systems? Okay, next week we will study that. Okay, any question? Okay, so as you know, they're very difficult to attend the class, but the government policies changed, also school policies changed there. So last week is a little bit talking about that, how we study in the school for 8 more times because our school is quarter system is 10 years. So don't know about that. Take it easy, but it's only if you come in the schools and then join the class is okay. It's very good, but in some case it's not used for you attend this in-person class. So don't worry about that and getting better for follow the school policy. Okay, so. Regarding this one, any question, let me know. Okay, any question? But probably we are starting the 9 o'clock, 9 to 11:30 or 11:40. Okay. Okay, thanks for coming.